When you face your limitations honestly, they become your starting points, not your stopping points. When you embrace your challenges openly, they become your teachers, not your tormentors. As Frederick Douglass wisely observed, out of resistance comes strength. Out of struggle comes progress. Let pressure push you not into panic, but into performance. Not into fear, but into focus. Not into retreat, but into resolve. Your greatest achievements will always live on the other side of your greatest pressures. Partner with them, learn from them, grow through them, and watch as what once threatened to imprison you becomes the very force that propels you toward freedom. Master the art of stillness in chaos. In tough times, movement is not always progress. Sometimes survival demands stillness, the ability to remain centered while the world around you spins. Stillness isn't passivity, it's power under control. You must act as if stillness is your strength, not your weakness. Chaos will always try to force a reaction, but you must learn to respond with clarity, not panic. The person who remains calm becomes the leader in every storm. Stillness helps you hear your own wisdom, not the noise of fear. Mahatma Gandhi faced an empire, yet his power came not from chaos, but from calm. His inner stillness disarmed armies and changed nations, because stillness is not doing nothing, it's doing the right thing at the right time, from a place of unshakable peace. In the ancient martial arts, masters teach that true power comes from centeredness, not aggression. The oak that remains rooted weathers the storm that uproots the willow that thrashes wildly. This is why meditation has been practiced by warriors throughout history, not to escape reality, but to engage it with full presence and precision. Stillness creates space between stimulus and response. That space, sometimes just a breath, is where your freedom lives. Without it, you become a prisoner to impulses, reactions, and fear-based decisions. With it, you gain the power to choose rather than simply react. You move from being the thermometer that merely reflects the temperature of your environment to the thermostat that influences it. Modern neuroscience confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. The mind in chaos makes poor decisions. Under extreme stress, blood flow decreases to your prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought, and increases to your limbic system, the center of emotional reactivity. Only by cultivating stillness can you reverse this pattern and maintain access to your highest cognitive functions when you need them most. This stillness must be practiced before it's needed. Like any skill, it cannot be summoned in crisis without prior training. Begin with small daily rituals, 5 minutes of morning meditation, moments of mindful breathing between meetings, deliberate pauses before responding to provocations. These practices build the neural pathways that enable stillness when chaos erupts. So when the pressure mounts, stop, breathe, center yourself, then choose your next move from a place of poise, not panic. In storms, stillness is the anchor that keeps your ship from drifting. Remember that stillness is not the absence of action, it's the foundation of effective action. It's not withdrawal from reality, it's deeper engagement with it. It's not weakness, it's the source of your greatest strength in moments that matter most. General Dwight D. Eisenhower captured this truth perfectly. Deliberate calmness under fire is the greatest asset of the leader in crisis. Cultivate this calmness as your competitive advantage. Let others be reactive, you be responsive. Let others be frantic, you be focused. Let others be consumed by the chaos, you be centered in the stillness that transforms it. Keep your word to yourself. In hard times, the promises you make to yourself matter most. Every time you keep your word, even when it's hard, you build trust in your own strength, and every time you break it, your confidence erodes. Survivors act as if their word is sacred. They don't just talk, they follow through. That inner integrity becomes their compass. Because when the outside world is uncertain, the one thing you must be able to count on is you. David Lloyd George, former Prime Minister of the UK. Rising from poverty and obscurity, he made a personal vow to improve the lives of working-class citizens. And even under opposition and war, he kept that promise. That commitment shaped his legacy. His social reforms, including national insurance and pension systems, transformed Britain because his inner commitment never wavered, even when external resistance mounted. Self-trust is built through consistent small victories. The alarm rings and you rise instead of hitting snooze. Victory. You commit to 30 minutes of focused work, and you deliver without distraction. Victory. You promise yourself you'll speak up in the meeting, and you do. Victory. These may seem insignificant in isolation, but together, they form the foundation of unshakable self-confidence. Most people underestimate how severely self-betrayal damages their psychological strength. When you tell yourself you'll start the project today, then you're not just postponing the project. You're teaching your subconscious that your word means nothing. You're programming yourself to expect failure. This inner fracture between intention and action creates an invisible weight that drags every future effort downward. The reverse is equally powerful. When you honor your word to yourself religiously, you develop an unspoken certainty that what you commit to happens. This certainty becomes the launching pad for increasingly challenging achievements. You build momentum through integrity. This principle extends beyond goal achievement to emotional resilience. When you promise yourself, "I will not be defeated by this setback," that declaration becomes your anchor in the storm. But only if you've established a pattern of keeping your word. Your subconscious responds not to what you say, but to what you've trained it to believe through consistent action. Make your own inner commitment. Declare, "I will rise," then do it. No matter how small the step, honor it. Speak with integrity. Act with follow-through. That is how survivors turn belief into reality, by proving to themselves they mean what they say. Start with promises you can keep. Build from there. If you've broken your word to yourself consistently, begin rebuilding trust with modest commitments. Better to promise yourself 5 minutes of exercise and deliver than to vow an hour and quit. Each kept promise restores faith in your word. Your relationship with yourself sets the template for every other relationship in your life. When you honor your commitments to yourself, you develop the integrity that others come to rely on. You become not just trustworthy to others, but trusted by yourself. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. The person who delivers more than they promise themselves will soon find themselves capable of promising and achieving far more than they ever thought possible. Turn setbacks into signals. Setbacks are not signs that you've failed. They're signals pointing you toward refinement. You must act as if every failure is feedback, not final. Most people collapse because they misread the message. They think this means stop, but in truth it often means shift, adapt, grow. A survivor looks at setbacks like a chess player, strategically. What lesson can be extracted? What adjustment needs to be made? You must refuse to personalize failure. It's not about your worth, it's about your method. Change the plan, not the purpose. Charles Goodyear faced ruin multiple times before discovering the vulcanization process that transformed rubber into a durable material. His setbacks didn't stop him. They guided him. He acted as if each failure was a puzzle piece, not a dead end. For 5 years, he endured poverty, ridicule, and countless failed experiments. He even sold his children's school books to fund his research. But with each failed attempt, he gained critical insight. The accidental spill of rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove wasn't luck. It was the culmination of thousands of strategic failures that positioned him to recognize the breakthrough when it arrived. This mindset requires emotional discipline. When facing failure, your first reaction will be disappointment, perhaps even shame. Acknowledge these feelings, but don't let them dictate your next move. Instead, activate your analytical mind. Dissect the failure. Was it a flawed strategy? Insufficient preparation? Bad timing? External factors beyond your control? Each diagnosis points to a different correction. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your comeback. Poor questions like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "What's wrong with me?" lead nowhere. Powerful questions like, "What specifically went wrong?" and "What would make this work next time?" create pathways forward. Reframe setbacks as essential calibrations on your journey. The pilot, whose flight plan requires constant adjustment due to weather and wind, doesn't consider these adjustments failures. They're necessary navigational responses that ensure arrival at the destination. Your life requires the same dynamic navigation. So the next time something falls apart, ask better questions. What is this trying to teach me? What's the next intelligent move? Let your setbacks sharpen your intelligence, not dull your ambition. There's a way through, but only if you stay alert to the signs. Resilience isn't about avoiding failure. It's about transforming its meaning. A rejection becomes market research. A mistake becomes education. A loss becomes preparation. This alchemical ability to transmute setbacks into strategy separates those who merely survive from those who ultimately thrive. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Your job is not to avoid the failure, but to find the seed, plant it, and nurture what grows. That is how setbacks become the very soil from which your greatest achievements will eventually emerge. Practice gratitude under pressure. Gratitude is not just for good times. It is most powerful in pressure. You must act as if thankfulness is your shield, because it is. Gratitude reframes pain and keeps your mind above the waves. When you practice gratitude in hardship, you train your brain to see opportunity instead of oppression. It's not delusion, it's discipline. Your circumstances don't have to change for your perspective to change. And once that shifts, your energy rises. Viktor Frankl, surviving the unspeakable horrors of Nazi concentration camps, discovered this truth at the extreme edge of human suffering. Even there, he found that no one could take away his freedom to choose his attitude. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing. He wrote, "The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is the essence of gratitude under pressure. The conscious choice to find meaning even in suffering." Neuroscience confirms what Frankl discovered through experience. Gratitude literally rewires your brain. When practiced consistently, thankfulness increases dopamine and serotonin levels, creating neural pathways that strengthen with each repetition. This doesn't just feel better, it functions better. Studies show that grateful people demonstrate greater resilience, make clearer decisions under pressure, and recover faster from setbacks. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. Authentic gratitude acknowledges difficulty while refusing to be defined by it. It's saying, this situation is challenging, and I'm thankful for the resources, relationships, and inner strength I'm discovering through it. The "and" is crucial. It holds both reality and possibility simultaneously. The practice begins simply. Each morning, identify 3 specific things you're grateful for, especially during your most pressured seasons. Make them concrete and immediate. Not just my health, but the energy I felt during my walk this morning. Not just my family, but my daughter's encouraging text yesterday. Specificity strengthens the neural pathways of gratitude. Next, transform complaints into expressions of gratitude. When you catch yourself saying, "I have to work late again," shift to, "I get to contribute to a project that matters." When thinking, "This problem is overwhelming," redirect to, "I'm thankful for the capacity to solve difficult challenges." This isn't semantic games, it's strategic reframing that alters your brain chemistry and emotional stance. Gratitude also serves as a connection point when pressure isolates. Expressing appreciation to others, even for small contributions, strengthens your support system precisely when you need it most. The person who remains thankful under pressure never truly fights their battles alone. Start where you are. Be thankful not because it's perfect, but because it's purposeful. Even pressure is proof that you're alive, growing, and engaged. Gratitude doesn't ignore reality, it transforms it. Say thank you, especially when it's hardest to say. Remember that gratitude isn't just something you feel, it's something you practice until it becomes your default response to pressure. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who wrote on gratitude while imprisoned by the Nazis, noted, "In ordinary life, we hardly realize that we receive a great deal more than we give, and that it is only with gratitude that life becomes rich. As Khalil Gibran wisely observed, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." Gratitude is that gift, offering your whole perspective as an act of courage when pressure would demand your surrender instead. Focus on what you control. In survival, clarity is key, and nothing brings clarity like focusing only on what you can control. Too many people waste their strength on things outside their hands, other people's opinions, the past, or unpredictable futures. But you must act as if your focus is your fortress. Control your effort, control your attitude, control your preparation. These are your tools. Everything else is distraction, and distraction is the enemy of survival. Admiral Horatio Nelson, one of Britain's most celebrated naval leaders, didn't focus on the size of opposing fleets. He focused on maneuver, strategy, morale. He maximized what he controlled, and that's what made him victorious against overwhelming odds. At the Battle of Trafalgar, outnumbered and facing the combined fleets of France and Spain, Nelson focused on what he could influence: innovative tactical formation, superior training, and the fighting spirit of his men. While others might have fixated on the enemy's numerical advantage, Nelson directed his energy toward his sphere of control. The result was one of history's most decisive naval victories. This principle extends beyond warfare into every domain of human achievement. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome called it the dichotomy of control, the wisdom to distinguish between what we can and cannot influence. As Epictetus wrote in his Enchiridion, some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. This distinction isn't merely philosophical, it's practical. When you obsess over uncontrollables, you create internal turbulence that clouds judgment, wastes energy, and paralyzes action. When you focus on controllables, you generate momentum that propels you forward regardless of external circumstances. Even in the most constrained situations, you maintain control over critical variables: your response to events, your internal dialogue, your physical effort, your learning orientation, and your values-based decisions. These factors may seem small compared to the magnitude of challenges you face, but they compound over time into the difference between breakdown and breakthrough. The skill of redirecting focus from uncontrollables to controllables requires daily practice. When anxiety rises about outcomes beyond your reach, ask yourself, what's one thing within my control that I can act on right now? This question shifts you from the paralysis of worry